Hello YouTube, it's Greg Shane again, coming to you from Tokyo, Japan. And today we're going to talk about an aspect of writing a story for comic books, and it kind of revolves around a question that is really commonly asked. And sometimes people get kind of crapped on for asking this question from writers, and I've seen, live interviews with very popular writers who kind of scoff at the notion and everything. But a question that's often asked is, where do you come up with your ideas? And I guess to a writer, it's kind of weird because, if you don't have an imagination, you're not going to be writing a hell of a lot of fiction. So it's kind of second nature, but I guess to some people, they just kind of really are very interested in what's up, and how these people actually make these ideas. Look at those wires, hey? It's crazy. Anyway, so let's go over the difference between a story idea, an idea for a story, as opposed to an idea for a concept. And you can have a concept for a story, that's great, but it's very vague. Okay? And when it comes to actually getting it down and getting it done, it's going to be really hard. And you're going to have to kind of have a lot of false starts and stops. So, yep, I got the pandemic hair. There we go. So let's talk about the difference. And the first difference is a concept, okay? So I'm going to be, again, giving you examples from my process and what I've done in the past to get, let's say, RAYGUN from ARCANA Comics. You can find it at ARCANA Comics, www.arcana.com for paper copies. It's a trade paperback, a graphic novel, or you can order it digitally. It's a real good deal right now at www.comicsology.com, and that's the digital version. You can just pick it up, read it on a Kindle, whatever. Anyway, let's talk about the difference between a concept and a story. So let's say, for RAYGUN, the concept for RAYGUN is that Nikola Tesla's death ray was a real thing. And where do you come up with your ideas? I don't know, man. I every once in a while I go on all these, I'll be interested in medieval knights and just read and try to find out as much as I can about medieval knights. Or years ago, it's about 11 years ago, I kind of rediscovered, I knew about him, but I kind of rediscovered Nikola Tesla. And I lived right beside a library, and for some reason they had a whole swack of books on Tesla. So I started going deep in biographies and getting any information I could, even a book of his patents. And one thing that stuck out to me was he had said in an interview that he developed a death ray, and this death ray would be capable of shooting down whole armadas of boats and fleets of bombers. And his point to making it, he said, was to make war redundant. If everybody has a death ray, it's kind of like the nuclear thing, nuclear weapon thing. So that was the concept. Okay, great. Let's say this is real. But that's not a story. Just because Nikola Tesla has a death ray isn't a story. So then I had to figure out, well, who has it and why do they have it? And I thought to myself, who wouldn't you want to have it is the more interesting story. And I thought, oh man, like a 10-year-old kid, 10-year-old boy, who just wants to go around shooting guns and playing soldier and science fiction and whatever. And again, the video before this we did influences. If you look, I liked Flight of the Navigator, Goonies, Cloak and Dagger, movies about like kids. E.T. is another one that would be a good example of this. And I really loved a kid protagonist. I thought, yeah, this is great, this is fun. And so because I had my protagonist, all I had to figure out is the where and the when. And setting it in modern day was very easy. And so there you go. I had the basics, and now just developing the character of Matthew, the protagonist in RAYGUN, and I developed the story. It's very easy. Who is this kid? Where does he come from? What's he dealing with? And if he did have the world's most powerful weapon, what would logically happen? And so that went from concept to story. And you know, the concept was just the genesis of it. It's just the seed of it. What if this was real? And the story is from the protagonist. It comes from the, well, who's he gonna, you know, what's gonna happen to him? You know, where is this happening? Why is this happening? And it just generally builds itself. So that, I think, is an example of the correct way to go from kind of concept to you know, protagonist, who, what, where, why, when, and then into the natural order of things. And you know, you can always, you know, make beats in your story, and maybe we'll talk about that. And we're definitely going to talk about how to organize things so that when you're making your comic, the page turns are proper. You know, you always want to have reveals and things like that. So anyway, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is, and right now, after we just went from influences, is I'm trying to give this to you in stages. And I'm going to give you a good example of what happens a lot of the time. I go down this rabbit hole sometimes too. It's a bad rabbit hole. It's not a good rabbit hole. And that's, you know, I have an idea for a setting. You know, it's the future, and you know, everybody's a superhero. This is, I don't know, I'm just spitballing, this isn't the type thing, but you know, and everybody's a superhero, and there's cybernetics, and there's this X, Y, and Z, and you know, these people rule the world, and you know, it's really cool, right? Like you can just start making these great ideas and loving them and being like, man, everybody would be, you know, loving this. And then you sit down and you start writing, and you're like, I don't have a story. I don't have anything to tell in this world. I didn't go there yet. And you can backtrack, but probably 9 out of 10 times what's going to happen is you've already invested time in it, and you've already kind of jumped in that hole. And you know, maybe back up a bit and realize that, you know, having a great concept generally for a setting is really good. And as soon as you have that, and you'll feel it, man, you know, if you're somebody who, remember in the last video we talked about, you dove deep, you like cyberpunk, you dove deep into cyberpunk, you liked fantasy, you like wizards, I don't care, the supernatural, horror, you went in, you did your research, you invested your time, you know what's good. So when you come up with that idea for a concept, you're gonna feel it and you're gonna know it. Right when that happens, go to character. Well, who's in this? What's this story about? So I know the world they live in, and I can flesh it out. I can make a Bible, and I can go do the George R.R. Martin thing where I'm going to spend a decade, you know, developing backstory, and that is great, and you should do that, and you should make a rich history for your world. But if you don't have a story in that world, what are you doing? You're not doing anything. It's just for you, and that's great, right, for you. But we're talking about like making comics for people to see, right? And in any circumstance, it's work for hire, or it's an indie thing, which is great, you know. And we're going to talk about, you know, my little foray. I'll give you the WRASKLES information. We're doing really well. We're only 3 days in. You know, we only need 500 backers 100 backers at the minimum level. We're selling the book $5 a book, 40 pages, all color, you know. You know, I think we're going to make it. It looks like we're going to make it. I'm going to put the link at the bottom of this. So anyway, that's basically what I was trying to get to is you know, learn the difference between concept and story planning. The next video we're going to go over outlining, and there's a bunch of different ways of doing that. And for the real hard question about where do you come up with your ideas, walking does it for me. You know, I give myself a little seed of an idea. I come up with that setting, like, oh yeah, that'd be cool. Who's there? And I just go for a bike ride. Brian Michael Bendis, years ago when his kid was really little, used to throw the kid on the back of the bike and then just go for a long ride and do errands. And by the time he got home, he had his answers. So whatever works for you, you know. I'm a kind of a more subconscious guy, and we'll talk about that process and how you can use your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. Yeah, and I hope you're all doing well during this pandemic. Yeah, I'm on my roof, by the way. So just to let you guys know, Rascals, Book 1, Crossroads at PORKSBURG. Rascals are teen pop punk rabbits who are fighting the supernatural on their way to pop punk stardom. Our Indiegogo is out right now. I think that's Shinjuku. There, those huge buildings. Yeah, pretty far away. Anyway, $5 the basic book. You can also order other tiers. Sketch cards, signed, you know, interior sketches on the books. We have 3 of the watercolor, hand-drawn watercolored works of art you can you know, frame up, put on your wall. It's a really fun story. You know, if you like cartoons like Gravity Falls or Looney Tunes or, you know, Animaniacs, anything kind of anthropomorphic that you think is kind of fun, yeah, give it a try. I'm going to put the link at the bottom. Indiegogo, the Rascals. Concept versus story. Make your concept, get a good idea. When you have a feeling it's good, just start saying to yourself, who am I writing about? What is this story actually about? And yeah, let me know how it goes. And yeah, we'll be back again soon. Thanks, guys.